I am, as has been suggested, a human rights advocate, some say activist. I believe in an America that is an experiment, an America that is yet to be fully realized. And I'm a believer in an aspirational America, one that fully understands the concept of human rights, the right of every human being, no matter what race, sex, religion, culture, background, sexual orientation he or she comes from, deserves to be treated with dignity and with respect and with honor. That is, as I say, not fully realized in America today, as many of you in this room know. As Aaron suggested, I'm also actively involved in trying to end the use of the death penalty for the same reason. I believe we should not be in the business of killing human beings. And I just noted that a recent study was done which explained the fact that our prisons in the United States of America, which house more human beings than any country in the world, are predominantly made up of people of color. And our death rows in particular are predominantly made up of people of color. And a study was just done to show that American juries are tend to prosecute more harshly people of color because of what is called unconscious racism. Now, we know there is racism in the country, and we know much of it is conscious. All you have to do is look at Cliven Bundy and Donald Sterling and a few others in our world. There's a police commissioner in some small town in New Hampshire who recently made a remark about our president that suggests he is an overt racist. But unconscious racism tells me that we have a lot of work to do in this country, not only to deal with the overt racists, but to deal with the explanation to people to understand that unconscious racism is driving not only their actions, their thoughts, is driving our culture in many ways, and is creating policies, creating activities on the part of our governments and government bodies that are harmful to people because of unconscious racism. And it is for that reason that I am thrilled to be able to present to you tonight the makers of this extraordinary film that educates, that reaches out and says to people, there is something that is going on in our society that has taken a culture and shifted its view of it for political and policy reasons. And that film is one that you have heard about. It is Valentinos Ghost, and I want you to see a little bit of it right now.
Media is so central to how Americans think about things. It didn't happen if it didn't come on TV. It didn't happen if we don't have a picture of it.
Where do these images come from? What is the relationship between these images and American foreign policy in the Middle East?
We've had a history of denigrating and bestializing the Prophet Muhammad, Islam, and Arabs as a people.
The new moral geography represented the Middle East as a world of dangerous religious fanaticism.
You're in my country now. You're my wife. You do as I say, you understand me?
1979 is the great turning point in the history of the 20th century, and indeed in the history of our times, because the consequences of 1979 in Iran are comparable with the consequences of 1789 in France. It's a revolution of world historical importance, and its reverberations carry on to the present.
My question is really directed to the agents. What have you found out about why these men did what they did. What motivated them to do it?
The answer is unknown to most Americans because the government and the media have not made it available. Here it is.
I believe they feel a sense of outrage against the United States. They identify with the Palestinian problem. They identify with people who oppose repressive regimes. And I believe they tend to focus their anger on the United States.
There's sometimes a gutlessness that we don't want to push the boundaries of what can be written or what can't be written, and to me that's the problem.
So over and over again you see what you do is you change and diminish the language of the conflict. The wall becomes the fence or the barrier, the occupation zone becomes the security zone, the occupied territories becomes disputed territories, settlements become neighborhoods. And so we make the Middle East unintelligible for people who don't live there or visit there.
And then I went to the ticket counter and I wanted the guy to know whose side I was on, so I caught myself enunciating English like never before. Wanted him to know, I was like, hello, my fellow American. How are you? Yes, I'm here to board the aeroplane. Carry-ons? Just this American flag, that's all I'm carrying on. Get off!
It gives me great pleasure to introduce the director and producer of this courageous film that I think should be seen by every American and people around the world. Please welcome Michael Singh and producer Catherine Jordan. Sorry. In the name of God, most merciful and most compassionate, the 2014 MPAC Voices of Courage and Conscience Media Award goes to Michael Singh, writer and director of Valentinos Ghost, May 18th, 2014 in Los Angeles, California. And I believe you may have heard the beginning and the end, so I will simply say the 2014 MPAC Voices of Courage and Conscience of Media Award goes to Catherine Jordan, producer of Valentinos Ghost.
Good evening. It was so encouraging to hear Patrick's stories of, and also MPAC speakers' stories of how things are changing and improving. We have had a very different kind of story, which I'd like to tell you about. But first, I do want to thank you, Salam Al-Mariati, and Sue Obedi, and Dina Nassar, and all the MPAC colleagues for all the inspiration and for giving us this award. It's a real humbling experience to be mentioned along with some of our heroes that you've honored, like Michael Moore and Amy Goodman. I also wanted to publicly thank my wife, who has been Joanna Lancaster, who has been not only a supporter, but my main banker as well. And thank you to the very gifted Catherine Jordan, who for 5 years sat by my side, raising funds, shooting the film, editing the film, and she doesn't get enough credit for her immensely creative work. And then I wanted to thank the fearless Mike Farrell. When I first approached him, I knew that his taking on the narration of this film could impact his career, but he said it was fine and he wasn't afraid. The very unfortunate owner of the Los Angeles Clippers, Donald Sterling, learned the hard way that if you denigrate a certain group, you will be punished. If you're looking for bigotry in this country, I suggest you take a look at the media, including Hollywood, where you will see, despite inroads, still the denigration of the Arab and the Muslim to such a degree that it has become socially acceptable and even financially rewarding, as filmmakers know, whether it be Disney's Aladdin or last year's Argo or hundreds of films in between, as Jack Shaheen has cataloged. What makes Muslims and Arabs fair game is a question that occurred to me and then I became obsessed with after coming to the United States from India when I was 18. India, most unfortunately, has just voted in a Muslim-hating, Islamophobic prime minister. Now, that kind of wide-scale bigotry in the voting is something that makes me ashamed to say I'm from India. And I hope that things go well there. But in any case, I didn't expect the United States to have that same degree of bigotry, because I see this country as one of religious freedom. And I don't think that I did much else for the last 10 years except work with a very talented team to answer the question of what makes them fair game. And the result is Valentinos Ghost. You must have seen this bumper sticker, which I often see, which says, "Well-behaved women seldom make history." And I can tell you that especially after listening to Patrick's report that he got all these awards, well, our film has world premiere at the Venice Film Festival, and although it got a standing ovation there, and although it was very well received all over Europe and all over the world, and although the Village Voice said it was thrilling and the New York Times made it a critic's pick, not a single major American film festival has agreed to show the film. Now, we had the same experience with fundraising. We were on the verge of Catherine is the greatest fundraiser you could ever want, and we were on the verge of a $400,000 grant. They thought our rough cut was brilliant. And then we showed them the Israel-Palestine section. And then I remember talking to the gentleman face to face, because he happened to be in Los Angeles. And he says, "You know, you're not getting the grant." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because your film's not very good." So it's a matter of not being well behaved, I think, that we have struggled against these perceptions and attacks at the film. And you can't imagine how odd and refreshing and inspiring it is to be standing here and to get an award for this film is just unbelievable. Okay. So I wanted to close. I wanted to quote Langston Hughes, the great African-American poet, and I paraphrase, "I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes. But tomorrow when company comes, nobody will dare say to you, eat in the kitchen. They'll see how beautiful I am, and they'll be ashamed. I too am America. Well, what I say now is that there are too many Muslims who eat in the kitchen. But tomorrow nobody will dare say to you, eat in the kitchen. They'll see how beautiful you are. They'll be ashamed. You too are America. And I hope that this MPAC award will prompt young Muslims to see our film and to understand the massive power of media and to not let them be exploited by it, but to take advantage of it and to your own good. Thank you very much.
Michael and I agreed that I would let him take the time slot. He's a much better speaker. It's a huge honor. Thank you very much.